Hey guys, so I know it's been a long time since I made a video, but just given how much support the last video in this series got, I thought I'd actually go ahead and continue it. So sorry it's been so long, but we're just going to jump right into this. So in this episode, I thought we'd be checking out kind of like the basics of game objects, as well as the basics of receiving and handling touch events. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead into your package and create a click new Java class, but we're actually going to change this drop down to an interface and go ahead and name it game object. Okay, so an interface, basically what it allows us to do is we can make a class and say it implements game object, which is an interface. And basically what that means is whatever methods we put in this interface, we have to put in that class for it to qualify as a game object. So I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. But go ahead and put in public void draw, and it's going to take in a canvas. And since these methods are all considered abstract, we don't actually put anything there. We just put a colon because we're not actually having this interface do anything. It's just here to say anything that implements this needs to have that method. We're not actually implementing it in this file. And then just do another one that's just update and go ahead and save that. Now we want to go ahead and create a class, and what I thought we'd do is kind of make a very basic player. We'll kind of develop this player as these tutorials go on, but for now I think we're just going to make it a rectangle that can be a certain color, and whenever you tap it moves down the screen. So let's go ahead and name this rect player, and it's going to be just a regular class, and then we're going to say implements game object. So this is what I'm talking about. You see we get an error, and that's because we haven't actually put these methods inside here. So we're going to do public, and then you see it prompts me to add them, so I'm just going to click them. So we have the draw method, we had the update method, and now we're good. So we're going to go ahead and add some instance variables. So it's going to be private, let's see here, private rectangle. And go ahead and import that class. Rect is just basically a way of storing information for a rectangle, and then we're going to add another one which is an int, and it's going to be called color. Colors are actually represented by integers in Android Studio. So then we're going to do a constructor, and it's going to take in it's going to take in all the instance variables. And now we're just going to set the instance variables to the arguments, so don't forget this keyword. And now that's done. And now what we're going to actually want to do is, since we're going to be moving it to different points, we're actually going to want to create a new update method with a different signature. And we're going to have it have an argument, and that argument's going to be a point. And now what we want to do is we want this point to be the center of the center of the rectangle. And so what we're going to do is so here's what we're going to do. We got to set rectangle, and then we're going to use the method .set, and you can see that basically we're going to set the left x value, the top y value, the right x value, and the bottom y value. So we're going to need to remember that, left, top, right, bottom. Okay, I'm actually going to comment that because I don't want to forget that. Okay, so what's going to be the left? Well, we just got a new point, and we want that x value to be the center. So what we're going to do is we're going to say point.x, and we're going to say minus, and then we're going to do our current rectangle and get its width. And that should be setting this point halfway in between it, because we'll see we'll add this. Oh wait, we want to add only half the width. And you'll see that sets it to the center because we're basically putting half the width on either side of that X value. And then similarly for the top, we're going to say minus rectangle dot height. One thing you guys should know when you're just thinking, because we're going to be using coordinates a lot when we're dealing with canvases, one thing you guys should know is that Y values, the top of the screen is the 0 Y value, and if you were to move your finger down the screen, the Y values are increasing, and that's why we subtract to get the top. And now let's just go ahead and finish this off. I think you guys get the point. So this is right. Let's just copy and paste and then change these pluses to minuses to pluses and divide that by 2. Okay. So almost done here. Okay. So that should be done. I'm going to delete this comment. And now we're going to come up into this draw method. Now this is when we actually got to draw our player onto the canvas. So let's take our canvas and say draw rect. We see this method immediately. It's the first one. And you'd see that its arguments are a rect and a paint. Well, as you'd expect, this method will draw a rectangle into the screen. And we already have a rect object, so we'll go ahead and just type that in. But then we're going to need something called a paint. So leave that blank for now, and we're going to create our paint right up here. So just leave the constructor as its default constructor. And then since paint allows us to do a lot of things like font and color and just a lot of different things. So it's like creating a custom style for drawing something. But we are only allowing customization up to a certain color, so we just need to set the color to color. And we're just going to set color to color, and then we're just going to pass in paint as the second argument. So now this is all taken care of. Now we got to actually put it somewhere. So let's go up here and create a private rect player and name it player, and then I'll explain this in a sec, create a point and name it player point. Okay, now with our player, we want to let's do player dot, and then we're going to call an update method whenever this update gets called, and we're going to pass in the player point where it should be. And on the draw method, we're going to make sure that we draw the player to the screen. So that's good. Now we just got to handle this player point. And before we get into that, let's actually make sure we instantiate these. So player is going to be a new rect player, and it's going to be arguments for rect are the same. It's left, top, right, bottom, but for right now I'm just going to do 100, 100, 100. You could of course play around with these. You could even set it to different ratios of the screen dimensions, but for right now I'm doing all 100s. And then here it is expecting a color. So now we're going to use this color class, but this color class is entirely static. It just contains useful methods, but it doesn't store any information. We're going to use this method RGB. You can use really whatever, but it takes in the red, green, and blue values of a color, and will convert that to the corresponding integer for that color. So I'm just going to do solid red, and now that's all good. And now for this, we want to do our player point. We want to instantiate this. And remember, we want this to be the center of our rectangle. Well, realize that we've made the left 100, the top 100, and then, I actually gotta do 200 for these. It's gotta start at 100 and then be 100 across. The top has to be 100, be 100 down. So realize that the whole width and height are 50, and the top left corner is at 100, 100. So the center is going to be at 150, 150. And that's just to start it out. Now we gotta handle the portion in which this point changes corresponding to where we touch. And that's going to be down here on this on touch event. Now you notice how it returns a boolean, and right now we just call to the super and return that boolean. Well, for now I've learned this from past projects. You just want to return true for now. You can look up more about it, because in very certain cases you may not want to return true, but basically returning false will just kind of give the app like reasons not to detect that touch in the future, but we just always want it to detect every touch, so we're just always going to return true. You guys can look more into that if you're concerned with it. But right now we just want to do a switch, and we're going to say event dot get action, and that's just an integer, and it's action type. Now, as you can see, if I go here, we're going to do motion event, and there's a bunch of these static ints, and they're all different. There's a lot of different ones, but the one at the top are all the different action types. As you can see, action down is when someone presses down, action moves when someone moves, and it's pretty intuitive. So we're going to need action down. So that's when they click, and we're also going to want to get the point when they move their fingers. So we want the same thing to happen, so we're just going to do this case without breaking. We're going to have both cases feed into the same thing, and we're going to say player point dot, are we able, okay, so we're able to set it to an X and a Y. So what we want to do is we want to say event dot get X, event dot get Y, and these coordinates are just going to be where our finger is on the screen. And I'm pretty sure I know the error. Okay, so these methods are returning floats, but the set method requires int arguments, so just typecast it, and that should be taken care of. Now we have a system for updating this point. We're passing it into the player to update, and we're drawing the player in this draw method. That's what I'm talking about these being very crucial methods, because if we forgot to call the player right here, we'd see nothing with the player. And I'm actually going to do one thing. I want to do canvas dot, hold on, I'll be right back. I need to search up one method. Alright, so the method I wanted to find was this method, what's it called? Oh my god, I already lost it. Let's see here. Draw a color. Here it is. And this will basically just fill the whole canvas with whatever color we specify right now. And so I'm going to just do color, and I'm not going to do any of these RGB methods, any of that. I'm just going to say the static value white. And I'm going to pass that in, and it should make our canvas solid white except for our red player. Now let's go ahead and give this a run. If you guys haven't, you probably should have realized you should have watched the other video by now, but if you haven't, in there I show you how to set up a virtual device. But once you have that, just click OK, and I'm probably going to pause the video because this is going to take a while, so I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back. That took a very long time because I actually had to install an entirely new version of Android Studio, but we're able to actually test this now. So as you can see, we're able to move our mouse, and this this block more or less follows it. We see that there's a little bit of lag, and that's most likely just because we're doing this on the emulator, not the not a real device. But if you were to export to your device, you shouldn't see that, and you'd be able to use your finger for all this. And yeah, so that's actually working exactly how we wanted it to. So we can go ahead and close this now, and we can actually do a few more cool things with that, which I can go ahead and hop right into. So the direction I think I'm going to be taking on this is I'm going to choose to kind of have the game be where we have that player remove, and we're going to have basically objects. Right now they'll be rectangles moving down the screen with gaps in between them, and we have to move the player between those gaps. So to finish up this video, we're just going to quickly start on that rectangle class that'll be moving down the screen, and then the rest I'll save for the next video. But go ahead and create a new Java class, and we'll just call it, let's see here, just like obstacle. Okay. And here's what we want to do. We want to say, we want to have a constructor, and we need to, we're going to want to make them rectangles again. So we're going to have a, let's actually come over here into rect player and just copy this, because we need basically the same thing. Import that, and then come over here and copy this constructor, and we'll just change the class to obstacle. Alright, and then now we're going to add one more method. Oh, we also want to we're going to add a few more methods because it's going to extend a game object. And we're going to come over here, and so we need to add our game object methods, which are the following: update and draw. And well, we of course need to fill those in, but before we do that, I'm going to add another method that'll just check if the player is hitting it. So it's going to be it's going to return a boolean, and it's going to be we can for now just name it player collide, and it's going to take in a rect player, and it'll be player. Later we may add a player interface so we can take in any apps, like any player, not just rect players if we add more, but for now just do rect player. And what we're going to check is we're going to say okay, so first we want to say we want some if statements. So we want to say if player dot, and here's where we may need to add some getters and setters. For right now, we're just gonna say we're gonna do public rect, and it's gonna just be get rectangle, and it's just gonna return our rectangle because we're gonna need that. All right, that solves that. So over here, we want to say if rectangle dot contains, and then it's going to take in this left top, right bottom, right? But we actually just want to see if it contains an X and Y because it doesn't need to fully contain it. So we're going to check if it contains the top right corner of the player, top left, and then we'll also check for the top right. So rectangle dot left and the top. And then we also want to check if, similarly, we also have the possibility of the top right corner of the player is inside our rectangle. So the right and top. And we don't need to check the bottom. Actually, we do want to check the bottom. I was going to say because the objects are coming down towards us, not coming up below us. But since we can move the player down too, we also need to check that. So just paste these all. And then we're going to check left, bottom, and finally we're going to check right bottom. Okay, that'll check all the corners of the rectangle. If anyone's inside of it, then we've messed up. Okay, and so this is going to return true, because the player has collided with it. Otherwise, it's going to return false. Now, save that, and we obviously... Oh, sorry, guys, it didn't extends up here. We need implements. Save that. And now we just got to finish up these draw and update, and then I'll go ahead and end the video there. But let's just do the draw for now, because they're not going to be moving. We're not going to do that in this episode. So, once again, similar to the player, we just do draw rect, and then we just pass in rectangle. We gotta make our paint. now pass that in color. Or, sorry, paint. Pass paint in. Okay, so now we're good. We can check if the players collided with an object. We can, obviously, construct an object, this obstacle object, and we are able to draw it. And that'll be useful in the next episode when we actually draw it onto our screen and create a system for moving it down the screen and have events that occur when the player does collide with them. So that'll be for the next video, so stay tuned, and I'll leave it at that.